It's a great start. Because we automatically started with the mic off. Because, yes, finally, it is the one and only Q from Retro Q Gaming doing one of these bad boys live for a change. And you know what? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling pretty positive right now. And I can already tell that despite one little minor issue right at the start, well, the future of this bad boy, this episode we got right here is so bright. I gotta wear shades. So, what are we doing here anyway? Well, welcome everybody to episode 33. Or should I say 33? No, I don't. I'm saying 33. That's right, 33 of our Quack Experimental Podcast. And we're gonna do one extra little bit of a special dealio here. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about anyway, but once we get towards the end, well, that's where the real important one, because I promise something special for the end of this. So, first off, what do we gotta do? What do we gotta laugh at first? What do we gotta critique first? What do we got to talk about first? Well, it's everyone's favorite platform. No, it's Google Stadia. That's right. Everyone's favorite platform. Google Stadia. The one that everyone lambasted. No one asked for. Everyone destroyed it. Everyone used logic and how technology works. And they understood what this would be. And you know what? There were the naysayers out there. The one that says, oh, you just don't like change. There were the ones out there that said, oh, you don't understand how technology works. There were these ones that used all their crazy logic that just insisted that Google Stadia was going to be a massive hit success. And guess which one of us were right? The ones that use logic, the ones that understand technology, the ones that are just overall not dumbasses. Because Google Stadia has launched. And Google Stadia is a mess. Now, we'll get to just how much of a mess it is shortly. But before we do that, well, we got something extra special to do. Because we're going to look at a little bit of Google Stadia. Now, you might remember why when I talked about it originally, there was a launch lineup, there was more games designed to be coming in the end of 2018, and then there was going to be games going forward in 2019. Well, it turns out the day right before launch, what happened was they moved every single one of those rest of 2018 games, and they just launched them day one with the rest of the whole thing. And in spectacular fashion, it was a bit of a disaster because the service is completely dead on arrival, as it should be, as all game streaming services should be, because they're an absolute joke. But it gets better. So many places, so many people, so many outlets, so many reviewers, so many everything. They have gone one extra bit further. They have reviewed Google Stadia, with some places even failing to set it up because the entire hardware setup and software setup required for it is absolute disaster, and it's just an absolute joke. Now, people have made GIFs of this. People have made comparison videos of this. I suggest you go and check them out from wherever your favorite source and whatnot is. But they are an absolute joke. You can see people just press a button and then turn, look at the camera, pose, and it still hasn't happened on the screen behind them. And then it happens like a second, 2 seconds later. It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute mess. But it gets better. It gets better. Under best case scenarios, using comparative tests of, say, the latency between regularly rendering something on your platform versus using Google Stadia, in the best case scenario, you get an extra 50% latency. That's right. The best case scenario is roughly 50% extra latency. Imagine that. And in the worst case, it's several additional seconds, which is just absolutely insane that anyone would do this whatsoever. Now, it gets better because even Google and even their internal department and whatnot have just a smidgen of logic. What they decided they would do was worry. Absolutely, justifiably so. Because the Google Stadia development team, the in-house development studio that work on the exclusive games, or the one exclusive game and the maybe potential upcoming exclusive games. Before launch, they were absolutely shitting bricks because they were worried beyond belief that if Google Stadia gets shut down or just becomes a barren wasteland, that Google was going to shut down the development studio. And then those people are out of a job. And it gets even better. After the extremely weak launch of Google Stadia, the extremely lackluster performance, the extremely lackluster, well, everything in general, supposedly, behind closed doors, rumors at least anyway, there are multiple different developers and publishers, third-party ones, that have games on Google Stadia. They are talking about pulling out of developing games for Google Stadia, or pulling out of even including their games, be it future games going forward, or existing games from Google Stadia, because, well, that's what we do, but we just laugh at them. So I forgot to mention this right at the very start of it. So how we're going to do this, because this is a little bit of a live one, despite the chat hating on my flair, my panache, my style, because, well, I mean, clearly, what do they know? They're American, am I right? But what we'll do, because I forgot to mention earlier, we'll talk a little bit about if anyone has questions, comments, or anything related to the individual topic at hand, we'll mention them and talk about them and discuss them and whatnot right at the end of that segment. If they're other related topics and whatnot, questions or comments and all, they'll be piled up and addressed right at the end in a whole one in there too. But that's our little laughing at Google Stadia segment out of the way. So we can move on to our second one. And before we move on to a second one, that's right, Beaver, you get your shout out. You get that shout out. Anyway, let's do this. Segment number deuce. We have some Borderlands 3 DLC. Now, this isn't specifically just about DLC, but it all ties together. The first DLC for Borderlands 3 has been announced. It's going to come out in December 19th. It's called Moxie's Heist of the Handsome Jackpot, and it is the first of 4 proper paid DLCs. Season Pass dealios. Not the timed events, not the CD keys, not the gold keys, none of that stuff. No, none of that stuff. This is DLC, Season Pass, paid stuff. Paid expansion, that kind of thing. So, what else does that have to do? This makes me wonder about a few different things. Now, these special time events and whatnot too. So these Halloween events, these Christmas events, these other events and whatnot, these ones that are live and limited time only. Now, they will naturally, same with the shift codes, which also have their own specific little, not exclusivity period, or activation period that will disappear after a while. But these ones, how are these going to apply in several months when they come to Steam? Because this brings out a couple of big questions. Are we going to have to wait to next year? Are we going to have to wait till, well, I suppose it will be current year at the time, for the Halloween event? Are they going to be available day one? Are they going to be brought in quickly? We don't know yet. But the same with the shift codes, the DLCs and whatnot too, the season pass, the bundles, all of this. But it makes me wonder, when it comes to Steam, what kind of price are we looking at? What kind of bundles are we looking at? Currently, there's 3 different bundles of, what's it called? Of Borderlands 3 on the Epic Game Store. These ones have the regular base game. There's a deluxe edition, which I believe does not come with the season pass. Don't hold me to that 100%. But then there's also an ultimate edition, which comes with a bunch of extra stuff, and the season pass for sure. So we don't know about the rest of it anyway. Now, but like I said, the big question, we go back. When it comes to Steam, after the 6 months of paid exclusivity is up from Epic Games, we can't say for sure, we can't get a proper metric, because the only existing comparison is not a proper comparable metric. Because there's only one game that I know of, at least anyway, so far, that has run out of its paid Epic timed exclusivity of 1 year originally, and is now available on other platforms like Steam and whatnot. So we don't know, because that's an indie game. So we don't know how that is going to compare for the likes of this. Now, honestly, my money is on Gearbox being Gearbox, aka being Randy Pitchford, aka being greedy and thinking they can get away with everything 6 months later and charge full price for it. Because why? Fuck you, we're Gearbox. You want Borderlands 3? Well, guess what, Randy? I don't have Borderlands 3 from the Epic Game Store, but I do have it installed on my computer, on my desktop. Right, meow. Deal with it. So I still think they're going to go and charge full price, which is absolutely laughable. Everyone do not buy this game at full price because, I mean, why would you? Why would you buy it full price 6 months later after they already got millions and millions and millions and millions? Literally, well, think about it this way. Control 1 year exclusivity, much smaller scale game by comparison, got paid $10 million for 1 year of exclusivity. Borderlands 3, a game that promised to blow up the world in hype and sales. You really think they paid less? Even if it is only 6 months? No. They can go double dip themselves in a fucking acid bath. But anyway, enough of Randy Bitchford. We'll move on to our... Before we move on, I have no idea about any of these references. So, you're going to have to clue me in, or you're just going right over the head. Right over the head. I just don't get it. You can hate all you want, because you know I look damn good while I'm doing this. Why you mad, bro? But anyway, we got a next little topic to talk about, and it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, it's not original OG Sonic the Hedgehog. It's not the best Sonic the Hedgehog game ever made, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's not one of the finest Sonic the Hedgehog games ever made, and one of the few games that made the successful quality transition from 2D platformer to 3D platformer. No, we are not talking about Sonic Adventure, and we're not laughing at Sonic 06. But in Sonic is a topic within itself. And you might remember that 2 weeks ago, they launched their revised trailer for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Now, you might remember a couple of months back, they launched the original trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog. And, well, Sonic's original design was a bit of a mess, and everyone hated it and whatnot too. And after it was met with massive backlash, they decided that, okay, we're going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to redesign Sonic closer to what you know, you love, and you expect, and you want as fans. So this new trailer showed Sonic's new redesign after that awful Nightmare Fuel design. So originally a claim came out that this whole redesign, redoing everything and whatnot, redesigning him, reanimating him for the trailers, for film, yada, 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 cost an additional $35 million. Now, again, more sources came out, and from more places and more reputable places at the same time, to say, no, the proper cost of redesigning was closer to $5 million. And they said that pretty much the almost only things that were made fully and completed and whatnot were in full CG, were basically what they had made for the trailers. So there didn't seem to be anything extra in there too. At least that's, well, the rumor and innuendo goes anyway. But there's a couple of interesting fan theories and a couple of little interesting fan sentiment about this. Now, the big one I see around there a lot is we have to make sure this movie makes money. To show them that taking our feedback on board and redesigning this at additional cost for us, we have to show that what we want and them doing what we want pays off. Otherwise, other companies can just let's take The Witcher, for example. They can just design whatever they want, do whatever they want, and then even if there's massive negative fan feedback, they can just say, oh, well, fuck it. It wouldn't matter if we changed it anyway. So, let's use a quick example. The Witcher. The Witcher has a series on Netflix, or an upcoming series on Netflix, and it has a second one already confirmed to be in production, or at least already ordered. Maybe not in production just yet. But a lot of people are maybe unhappy about this kind of thing because there's a lot of changes to some of the characters in this based on the setting it's in, the location it's in, the time period it's in, etc., 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 as well as the source material it's pulling from. Well, they got to go with the whole diversity thing and change a lot of people. They're changing characters' genders, characters' ethnicities, characters yada yada yada. They're doing whatever they want. Now, naturally, this is met with fan backlash. So in that case, if there was enough fan backlash, there could be a reason for them to go back and change it. And then, of course, if it doesn't pay off and there's no money, well, they can say, oh, well, you know what? Maybe season 2 comes out, they do something like that, or maybe a few years from now they do a Cyberpunk 2077 one. And then they say, oh, well, you know, fuck it, we changed stuff in Netflix or in The Witcher, and that didn't pay off, so, you know, fuck it, we're not going to pay attention to you this time. So, it's interesting to see how much money this is going to make. If it will be, I suppose we can't really gauge it properly, but it would be nice to see how much it would have made in its old form versus how much it would have made in its new form. So we have to theorize how much of this money is extra because of the redesign. Unfortunately, it's something we can never check and we can never tell, but it's going to be a fun mental exercise. That's for sure. Now, next one we got is finally Detroit Become Human. Oh, cute, Detroit Become Human, that PlayStation exclusive. Wrong. Not a PlayStation exclusive, because get wrecked. And it finally has a PC release date after missing its original release window of summer 2019 by about 6 months or so. Now, when it comes to Detroit Become Human, strangely enough, with Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, they released a demo of those games a little bit in advance, so people could run it, test it out, see how it ran on their computer, see how optimized it was, and just check the overall quality of the game. Strangely enough, Detroit Become Human, their PC demo is going to be released on the same day. All of this is happening on December 17th. So the demo is coming on the same day. Now, so far, unfortunately, no specs have been revealed for the game just yet. As in PC specs, hardware and whatnot, CPU, GPU, yada, yada, yada. But I'm expecting them to be much higher than Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, because those are essentially PS3 games remastered for PS4 and then ported over to their superior top quality definitive edition of the game PC versions. So naturally they will be much lighter in that regard. Heavy Rain is developed exclusively or primarily with the PS4's hardware in mind, and the game looks fantastic. In fact, I've mentioned this before, but there is one part in Detroit Become Human where when I saw it, I thought, wow, this looks fantastic. I cannot believe this is in-game gameplay graphics. Now, that scene lasted for about 30 seconds and then it changed and it went back to being its usual little thing. But the point is, it could do it. And naturally, because of we have the glorious PC Gaming Master Race and its much higher end, proper, capable hardware and performance, well, we're going to see much better everything, much better quality, much better textures, much better visuals, and of course, 60 frames per second and above. So naturally, I'm expecting this to be a lot higher performance, at least requirement-wise. So I'm hoping I can run it pretty damn well. That's a hope, at least for me anyway, because, well, we just don't know how it goes. Do I want? Yeah, of course I do. This is my jam, and of course. And interesting, I'd love for you to expand on this, Beaver, since we're talking about it. But I know you're not a fan of David Cage games, and you mentioned David Cage games suck. Would you care to expand on that before we move on to another one? Or are you just piling on because, well, you like poorly designed games like, let's see, Nier Automata. That's a very poorly designed game. But you're hating on David Cage games, and, well, we just don't know why. Maybe we'll find out eventually. But the big thing, when you think about it, is I understand that these games, these narrative-driven story experience, no, you know, that's not even fair. These interactive dramas, as he coins the term, David Cage, that is, they're not for everyone. It's a very gameplay light game, and to be honest, some of the stories and whatnot in them, there can, like Beyond, for example, can be a little bit of a mess, especially if you play it in its original non-chronological order form. That's really poorly. But it all depends on, see, again, with the whole QTE gameplay, if you will, it's more so for you to almost feel in control of the character and their specific actions, not be able to do everything at any time. It's like you're pushed towards the story side of it, if you will. And no, Beaver, there are not 7 belts on this jacket. It was designed by Tetsuya Nomura. There are 6 on this jacket. We got 2, we got 4, and I don't know if you can see them, but we got 6. Deal with it. Now, enough with the ray tracing on the gloriousness that we're talking about here. But we'll move on to our next little one. Now, we have... This one is not so much an official confirmation, but it's some more Final Fantasy XIV talk. Because recently there was a Final Fantasy XIV UK fan fest. Now, this is a whole official, unofficial, you can take it whichever way you want. But the whole fan fest thing is a bit all over the place. No, it's not a video game jacket, but Tetsuya Nomura is famed for drawing characters and art and stuff with a shitload of belts, Final Fantasy style, because that's what he draws. But anyway, back to Final Fantasy. So we have the Final Fantasy XIV Fan Fest in the UK. Now, Yoshi P, or whatever you want to know him as, he showed up to talk to the fans and give some speeches and keynotes and whatever and all. And at the Fan Fest, he mentioned that the Final Fantasy XIV dev team is hard at work on a PS5 version of the game. Now, Square Enix did come out and clarify what he said, and they said he's hopeful and he would like it to happen, but this is not a confirmation. Now, it's really a whole unofficial deal when you think about it. But at the end of it, is it really unofficial? The literal game director came out on stage at a FanFest event and said, yeah, my team is hard at work on a PlayStation 5 version of this game. I mean, which one of these... And realistically, did you expect it not to come to PlayStation 5? Everything's going to come to PlayStation 5. If you thought... I theorized about this before, but if you thought the start of this generation was bad for ports and remasters, you ain't seen nothing yet when the next one comes in. It's going to be a bit of a mess. But hopefully that means they will drop the awful PS2 era quality textures. Some of them in that game are an absolute joke. And maybe, even if it's not the basic standard install size, but give us a high resolution texture pack on PC. Because that is what we want. Now, what do we got here? Talking... Oh Lord, people. Why are you mad, bro? Why are you mad? But it begs the question: with Final Fantasy XIV, will the game even be around that long? The game is a mess. The game is a disaster. It's in its current worst form ever and its worst era ever. But I mean, it's going to get an official. It's gonna get an official port, of course, but it's still gonna be a disaster because, well, console games, especially with an MMO. But speaking of multiplayer games and whatnot, we have some disheartening and worrying stuff to talk about. Cyberpunk 2077. Oh, Q, why are you hating on Cyberpunk? There's a reason of one specific part of Cyberpunk 2077 that I'm hating on. Multiplayer. It's already confirmed that there will be multiplayer in Cyberpunk 2077. This is nothing new. It's going to be a post-launch edition, meaning it will not ship in the base version of the game. And in this topic, we're going to talk specifically about the monetization aspect. Because CD Projekt Red have come out and said, and I quote, "We are exploring various possibilities, and so far, it is not the time for precise determination direction." Obviously, their English is a little bit questionable. They are Polish devs. Although it can be safely said that we will not compromise our own policy of contracts with players. Monetization will be intelligent, and we will ensure that, how always, we deliver valuable products in exchange for payment received. So you can get the idea of what they're trying to line up and what they're trying to say. Look back with their history as well. Witcher 1 and 2 are no examples, but Witcher 3 is. It had, 12, maybe 14 post-launch free content updates, and it had no microtransactions and had 2 proper full-sized expansion. One of which was supposedly the size of the entire game. Blood and Wine, everyone loved it. So that is pretty promising, at least in that way. But they've also come out and said that they're against microtransactions in general and don't want to do anything that will fracture the player base, like sell map packs or DLCs or an expansion or whatever that would lock people out of certain content, certain maps, certain modes. Maybe they couldn't play with certain skins or players or whatnot. But that brings back what's left. If you don't want to do microtransactions, if you don't want to do something that could fracture the player base, like say map packs or something like that, what's left? How are you going to remonetize this? Are you going to charge monthly for it or something like that? Because an expansion would lock out old players, fracturing the player base. Microtransactions, well, enough said with how they feel about them already. So we just don't know yet. Now, you guys have been going a mile a minute, as I can see, so I'm going to take a second to... What do we got here? Everyone's just hating, that's all it is. So many people. You really think... Come on. You really think your words affect me? Poor guys. And girls or whatever it is. Let's see. Getting some I don't worry. Don't worry. What's the word I'm looking for? I relish the idea. You send me those gifts. I need to see those gifts. Otherwise, they're not gifts. It's like if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one around to hear it. Does it really fall? If someone makes a gift but doesn't really send it or show it to anyone, does it really exist? Well, they say all this stuff, but people be mad. People be mad. Now, speaking of people being mad, there's a contingent of gamers out there that are mad at our next little topic. New Half-Life. I've talked about this before, just the other day, because I was pretty damn hyped and pretty excited despite it not being 100% perfectly exactly what I wanted. But New Half-Life is official, New Half-Life confirmed, New Half-Life announced. Now, it's not, unfortunately, Half-Life 2 Episode 3. It's not Half-Life 3. It is VR only, called Half-Life Alyx. There are no plans to ever have a normal version of this game for regular PC or anything like that. And hopefully they don't dumb it down and put it on that piece of shit that is the PlayStation 4 VR or the eventual PS5 VR, because that would also be a joke. Now, there's a trailer out there at the moment. It looks damn good. It looks like possibly the best VR game out there at the moment. There's no word on the engine yet, which is curious. My guess is that it will be a Source 2.0 engine, or maybe it's even a completely different engine because of the VR and whatnot. Or maybe there's a new Source 3.0 engine that we just don't know about because, well, all of this. Now, it's going to be released in March of 2020. It comes free with, if you own a Valve Index VR headset or you buy a Valve VR Index headset between either now and then or at any time going forward. Basically, if you have or get a Valve Index VR headset in any way, shape, or form, it will come free included with it. It would fucking want to be. The Valve VR headset, or the proper bundle at least anyway, is $1,000. So, you'd hope they throw in a game for free. Now, supposedly this is Valve's biggest project ever, which, despite it only being a VR game, this makes perfect sense, given that it's 2019 and the game is coming out in 2020. Look at their other games recently, the last time they made full, proper games and whatnot too, the time it's going to come out, and of course the tech involved because of that. They have put up the minimum requirements for it as well, which we'll go over real quick. They're nothing super special, but, well, we don't do minimum spec here, but they haven't put up the recommended or whatnot too. Operating system, of course, is Windows 10 64-bit. CPU required is an Intel Core i5 7500 or an AMD Ryzen 5 1600. 12 gigabytes of memory. GPU will be either a GTX 1060 6GB version or an RX 580, again 6GB. Now, it sounds like, from what they've talked about anyway, it's going to be a proper full-length game, and it's going to be classified as a proper, full, legitimate Half-Life title in the series. Now, it's going to have a voiced protagonist, which means, they're obviously going to talk and whatnot too. But this kind of makes sense, because Alex is an existing character. She speaks in the games that she's in, and of course you're going to control her. So she is a voiced character. Now, this is mainly done to help set it apart and differentiate it from playing the regular Half-Life 2 or some of the subsequent episodes, because obviously you play as Gordon Freeman, a silent protagonist. So there's a little bit different there too. There's also going to be a new actor playing Alex Vance. Her name is, I'm going to try, hopefully not butcher this one, Ozioma Akaga. I don't know who she is, but it's designed age-wise to make her sound younger, a little bit younger than Alex from Half-Life 2. And if you weren't aware of it, this takes place before Half-Life 2, so makes a little bit sense that she would be a little bit younger and sound a little bit younger. Now, of course, series staples, character-wise, like, say, G-Man and whatnot will appear, as well as head crabs and all that too. They've shown off a little bit of extra stuff in there as well. We have Alex with gravity gloves. Gravity gloves. Because she doesn't have a gravity gun, but she has gravity gloves. Now, they look funky. They look like they're going to have some cool stuff. It even shows her health on one of them too. She's got little hearts on there as well. So hopefully that goes work, because naturally this takes place before Half-Life 2, and it might show up a little bit of a stepping stone to how they created the 0-point energy field manipulator, or the gravity gun, if you will. But anyway, importantly, it supports all PC VR headsets, and it won't just be Valve Index exclusive. Thankfully, I have an Oculus Rift, but of course I'll probably buy whatchamacallit for this too. Now, I see a couple of people going a bit nuts here between little segments that I didn't get a chance to check. So let's see what we got. People talking about banishing me to the shadow realm, the shadow world, and wanted to. Ooh, scroll. What are you doing buying that? Ooh, that is rough. What's with the shades? The shades. Well, first off, I see who that is. Long time no see. Boyo. And, well, if you didn't understand what it is, the future's so bright, I gotta wear shades. That's what it is. Now, anywho, we got a little bit more. You know what? I gotta take just a little bit. You know why I can do this? You know why I can stop and do this in the middle of one of these? Because I'm better than you. And you know it. Delicious. Now, not too much left. One proper thing to talk about. One other little thing. And then, of course, the special announcement that I ever wanted to talk about. So, this one is a little bit of praise for, is it Open Ocean? I think that's the development team for it. But Medieval. Now, you might remember Medieval, the PS1 game, way back. Eventually, just remastered recently to the PS4. Now, actually, you know what? It wasn't even remastered recently. It was remade recently for the PS4. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't as good as some of the other remakes that everyone else expected. Everyone had very, very high hopes for it, with along the lines of the Crash Bandicoot remakes, which were fantastic. A couple of other people had some high hopes for the likes of Spyro and whatnot too, because, well, I can't really talk too much about Spyro. I didn't like it back in the day, so the remake side of it didn't really do it for me. But on top of that, many people actually, praised the whole deal anyway too. But one thing that completely shocked and surprised me I 100%ed Medieval just recently. I completed the game, I got all chalices, and I even went back and got every single Lost Soul task. Once you do that, you unlock Medieval 1, the original PS1 version, in the game. I know, that kind of blew my mind as well. Because in this day and age of companies trying to resell you and screw you over with this kind of stuff, they actually included it as an unlockable thing. That's amazing. That is amazing. I highly praise them for that. And I think that is fantastic that they would do that. But I don't see many other games doing it. As far as I know, Crash Bandicoot didn't do it. I didn't 100% everything in that, but I did finish all the levels in the game. As far as I know, Spyro also didn't do it. But Medieval, they did include it, and that is one of the important ones. Now, we'll move on to the best segment, because that, of course, is what we do. And this is the one everyone wants to see, everyone wants to hear, everyone wants everything this time. And yes, that, of course, is Q. What is up? What is going on? What are you doing? What are you playing? Now, I haven't been doing shit this week. Played a little bit of Pokemon Black while I was waiting for Pokemon Sword and Shield to arrive. I was making progress and whatnot too. And then, of course, they arrived earlier than planned. And that's basically all I've been playing this entire time. Played a little bit of Gears of War 5 last night because of a special event they had on and whatnot too. But it's pretty much just been Pokemon. Actually, you know what? I've been neglecting. I gotta keep the Q Collective in line here. So I gotta be the benevolent leader for just a moment. What do we got? Nobody drinks plain. Are you insinuating that this is not the best flavor? Are you one of those freaks out there that thinks that the orange flavor is the good one? I'm speechless. Absolutely speechless. Why would you even ask me to say the number 3? 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. And yes, I can. Because what episode are we talking about? We're looking at episode 33. That's right. That's probably something you've never fucking heard me say, right? Boyo. Well, guess what, Jackie boy? Guess what, Johnny boy? We have 33. I know you fucking missed that. Boom. Anyway, back to my point. I'm still watching AEW. That's pretty good. I'm enjoying that anyway. I'm looking forward to Dynamite every week, especially this week, especially the one that's coming up on here too. And we have some big potential stuff going this week. But I will say this, as much as I've been out of wrestling for about 18 years now, with the exception of getting back into it with AEW, we all have the fond memories, the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, the WCW era, the WWF In Your House era, all of that stuff. But of course, you have those fond memories. You remember so much about it. But this week on Dynamite, badass Billy Gunn himself showed up. He works for AEW now, but AEW is All Elite Wrestling. But he works for them. He's one of the trainers and whatnot too. And he came out into the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royale. It's funny, I criticized all the commentators and all at the time for calling it the Diamond Dozen Battle Royale, despite it actually being officially called the Dynamite Dozen. Anyway, back to my point. He was the final entrant, the 12th entrant of the Battle Royale. The crowd popped like crazy, myself included. You remember all of that good stuff, but it's so much better to see them come back, to get that pop. He was in there, DX crotch chops. He was like in front of MJF, suck my dick, hit the microphone, famouser, boom, crowd goes wild. Because, well, we're professionals up in this bitch, am I right? But it's just crazy in that way. Now, we're coming up to the end of it here. I gotta keep these little unruly kids back in line as they do, but they're They're a little bit well, yeah, of course there's other flavors, but I mean grapefruit and passion fruit and all, they're not real flavors. They're what are you? What are you, English? Get out of here. And you know what? Just because we can do it again, you know what? You could even call this a little bit of a celebration.
A little bit of the bubbly.
Feels good, man. Now, the special event, the special reveal, the one I have on my phone, penciled in for 1 year. It's penciled in on the 1 year anniversary of when I did the first episode of one of these. But I decided, because everyone loves my sensuous 33, I decided I'd do it now. And to highlight that, it's the little bit of not a little bit of the bubbly, but because it's a live one, we got a special one. Well, Paul, you know what it is? I'm flying high. That's all it is. I am flying high. I'm high on life. The future's so bright, I have to wear these shades. And naturally, I'm styling and profiling. Just call me the nature boy. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. We have the special reveal, special announcement that I'm doing about 4 months earlier than originally planned. Now, everyone wanted this. Naturally, why wouldn't you? But it's going to happen. Everyone has been asking me, Q, what is up with the name of this podcast? Why is this happening like this? What is different? What is the name all about? Where did it come from? Someone made me some artwork before. They wanted to say, hey, I made you some artwork for your podcast and whatnot too, based on the name. Of course, I didn't tell them to deal with it, but they thought it was Quack, as in ducks. They had a little thing made up for me and whatnot too, and it had a duck. And I'm thinking, you know what, I appreciate the effort. I can't tell you why I named it what I did, but this I cannot use. So, I'll get to it now in a moment. The collective are doing their thing again. You're telling me they've improved Battlefield 5. How can you improve absolute dog shit when the limit, the roof, the ceiling it can hit is absolute dog shit? I mean, what? That's like saying, yeah, Q, they made I'm looking around here. I don't have any shit products here to use as an example, because naturally, your boy only exudes quality and surrounds himself with quality. I cannot make a good comparison or example here. But, woo lad. Sugar is my flying high. I will go with that. Now, back to the point that everyone is derailing me from. Where did I come up with the name for this? Well, for those old school file sharers of you out there, you may remember something that we'll call WinMX back in, when would this have been? The late 90s? Maybe the early 2000s. There was a file sharing program called WinMX, and people would host rooms to share specific files. You would have one that traded new movies. You would have one that would traded porn. You would have one that traded music of a certain genre. You would have ones that traded anime. And of course, you roll up, you do all this. You're downloading all this stuff. You're sharing all this. Whatever it is you do. Why are you hitting on my door? It's a wooden door. It's got a wood panel. What is this? Fucking iced tea up in here. I hate you. I don't even know you, but I hate you. Fucking this guy hating on people on the ground. You know me. You know me. You know I'm the king of the haters. You know I'm the king of... Thank you, food. I appreciate that. Everyone appreciates. See, some people recognize greatness. They're derailing this special reveal that I've been in the middle of for like 10 minutes. Just because everyone recognizes the greatness, the style and profiling, with the bright future. So bright, I gotta wear the shades. And naturally, because yes, I'm better than you. And you know it. Anywho, everyone, I'm going to ignore the Q Collective for the next few minutes while I finally tell the story. You have those sharing rooms, the file sharing rooms and whatnot. There was many actually, naturally, because at the time, finding anime was basically almost impossible. So you find all of these different rooms. You jump in, you're downloading all this anime from all these other people, stuff you've never even heard about. And eventually they have all these crazy names in there. You have like Anime Addicts, Anime Channel X, Anime this, Anime that. There's tons of them. But eventually, I settled in a few of them, but some of them came, some of them went. And then we settled in to a little known one called Anime Yakuza. Now, it's just a random name almost, basically, which makes perfect sense. But you stay there. You talk to the people, you share files, you do this, you do that, you do the other. Time passes by. Years and years and years. Literal years. Remember, this is the late 90s, early 2000s. And yes, time passes by. WinMX gets shut down. You know these people in other ways, shapes, and forms. You have them on other messengers and whatnot, other file sharing programs. And eventually, because it's getting shut down, you move over to a different platform. So we moved over to IRC. If anyone calls it IRC, I will kill you. But we moved over to IRC. And we continued on there. Now, a lot of the fan sub groups and whatnot, and the Rippers and all that too, they had bots and whatnot on Ryzen and all that stuff too, or Risen, depending on how you wanted to pronounce it. But you could go in there, you could download all your stuff, but then eventually, our little group, we decided we'd take on our own stuff. Now, we weren't fan subbing anime, we weren't fan dubbing anime, we weren't doing any of that stuff. But what we were doing, were we were taking some of these soundtracks. I won't call them obscure soundtracks. We were taking anime soundtracks, we were taking video game soundtracks, or something to those effects. We were ripping them in exceptionally high quality. We were one of the very, very, very first groups, and whatever it was, to use FLAC. We were using FLAC when it was new. Everyone else was putting out 192 kbps MP3s. Maybe you could get 320 kbps MP3s. We were putting out uncompressed FLAC of these things that everyone wanted. And people were coming in, hitting our torrents, hitting our bots. We were ripping this stuff. I know, from the last time I checked at least anyway, which has admittedly been several years ago, three of the top 5 torrents. In fact, I believe it was number 1, number 2, and number maybe 4 or 5 were my personal rips. I believe they were the Black Mages albums, 1, 2, and what's the other one? Oh yeah, funny story, Terranigma. Something that had been, yes, long story, long extra story that I won't go in there. But we needed a topic, and because we were getting more popular, people were coming in and all, we couldn't just leave it with a little welcome to such and such. So I decided I would take it upon myself, as the glorious paragon and leadership that I am, I would change that myself. And this topic that I chose, which was, a lot of my usernames in certain places back then were all the same username, which derived from an anime called Excel Saga. And the proper full official name of that show is Quack Experimental Anime Excel Saga. So I changed that to Quack Experimental Chat Channel. And now, here I am, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years later, sitting in front of my computer with this microphone, this camera, and through the power of the internet, and you glorious, most of you, glorious people of the Q Collective in the chat, you now understand where the name comes from. That's it. That is the one. Now, of course, I will take a moment to get back to chat in a second. I do want to hear from my boy, Mr. Jim Cornette. Jim, what do you think about this?
Quinn's a superstar.
I absolutely 100% agree. Now, real quick, I did miss a lot because I did say I wanted to get my little story and tangent and all out of the way too. So we got 1 second. Let's see what we can do here. I live on... It's not pine boarding. Come on, I don't live in like a... There's no shag carpet, pine boarding, and a vinyl player. Come on, my vinyl player is downstairs. Get real. I mean, what are you doing criticizing my age as well? You're like 700. Come on. Get out of here. See, I look like a budget version of a U.S. Air Force pilot. Yeah, but I'm not gay, so it doesn't count. What else we got? Please retire that joke. It's not too... I don't know what joke you're talking about. Why would I take this jacket back? It is clearly the most fashionable thing you will never see in your life. And... Oh, Burb, you're finally showing up. Long time no see as well. FXP groups on IRC well before Torrance Kiddo. I know, I'm using just as examples. It's comparative, if you will. So... You understood it. Yeah, Beaver, Beaver, you of all people have been waiting. I believe you have even told me that you purposely downvote every episode until I reveal this. This has nothing to do with the reveal, by the way. But you of all people cannot criticize this because you get what you deserve. Just call me the Joker, baby, because you get what you fucking deserve. Remember that. Now, where else are we? Where's Forum, eh? They're Woolat. They're old school. You should be lost. That's the important thing. You already forgot. Okay, Boomer. Come on, what? Someone okay boomered me. You know who the fuck I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Remember, look, never forget it. Because I'm Q, and I'm better than you, and you know it. Just remember that. What else we got? No shags at all. The Boulder Butter, what? Oh, but yeah, there you go, Bieber. You take that. You take your word. And you know what? I will give you this. You get a golf clap for being a man of your word. That's something I appreciate because everyone buckles these days. And everyone is just a... What's the word? I can't say a troll. Everyone is... People don't use words correctly. No one sticks to anything anymore. People will say one thing just out of convention or normality or whatnot, normalcy. And, well, that's what it is. Well, then, Scrock, I don't know how I feel about that one. Because that's all sorts of shenanigans and chicanery. But that is basically it. What else have we got to talk about? Nothing. There's absolutely nothing. My convoluted reveal has happened. You know what? I should pop this. This actually pops right up. You should see me. The quintessential 80s guy. That collar, literally, look at the fucking size of that shit. Look at that. Designed by Tetsuya Nomura himself. 6 belts on this bitch. Damn, you people are mad. Why am I so good at this? Anyway. I know I said you're resub, and that's why I said I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if it counts. I don't know if it requires the adorned additional extra praise. But, anywho, I will see everyone later on whatever it is we do next. Be it another episode of this, which of course will be pre-recorded. Another video, live stream, Twitter, whatever it is, or wherever you may find me, wherever you may be graced by my presence. You may be lucky to run in to the best ever. Sammy No, it's not him. It's your boy Q. Anyway, I will bid everyone adieu. Because I got some shit to do. And I gotta suit up. Let's fucking do this.